76 Reliant Kitten. I don't know if you can see the colour of the bonnet from here, but it is the one that was won from RetroShite. I didn't win it, I just bought it off the bloke who did win it. The car was fully functioning for a start. All of the electrics were working because all of the cars really that are given away there need to be roadworthy in some way, so there's that. So we didn't need to fiddle with any of the electrics, and my brother who both like to restore classic cars together, and that's what we've been doing really. The whole interior was completely gone, mainly because all of the window seals, including the windshield, the side windows, the rear side windows and the rear window, all of the seals were gone. So inside of the car there was essentially a pond, and after 15 minutes you'd feel pain in your lungs because there was black mold throughout the whole thing. Right now we've fitted a light carpet, which we sort of regret because it gets dirty, but I'm trying to get the original interior back. There's no radio, no idea which wires actually go to the speakers, but they aren't original either. They have sort of been just bodged in there. Right now I'm sitting on scimitar seats, and you are strapped to a scimitar seat headrest with tape. You may notice that there was no door cards either, because they had to be removed and chopped up in order to fit these seats. I was recommended these seats. They work decently well. They have the same colour scheme, so that's nice, but in order to put your seatbelt on, you have to leave the door open, or else you can't pull it around the door. The seats are basically right up against the centre tunnel, so you can't really move them. Besides, they're both half bolted to the frame anyway, so it's not as if you can re-drill them. We want to find original seats for it, and I'll be taking you for a ride around central Edinburgh. Maybe I'll say a few things occasionally. So far it's running well. Engine's all warmed up. Temperature gauge actually works quite well in here. Pretty sure the breather is pumping some oil into the carb, so some doesn't run that smoothly at idle. About the noise from the overall door cards, the wind noise. Again, since the original carpet is gone, there's very little in the way of sound deadening, so it's not actually that much quieter than a Robin is, with the engine being mounted pretty much in the middle of the car. You know, sometimes they say you shouldn't meet your heroes really. I was expecting the Kitten to not have any of the issues that the Robin's design has. And to be fair, they're not really issues, they're fairly subjective things. I don't mind having a nice engine to listen to. But a few things I was slightly, I guess, disappointed with when it comes to the Kitten is that for the passenger side, you don't actually have much more legroom when it comes to the seating position, because although the footwell is wider for the passenger, it's shorter in length because the wheel is there. And in a Reliant Robin, your feet are basically up against the headlights, so you actually have more room to stretch your legs. You just can't really move them much. And here the footwell is shorter, but at least it actually has somewhere to rest your foot when it's not on the clutch pedal, so that's something. And of course it handles really well. Although the downside is someone did remove the anti-roll bar in the past from the front suspension. They didn't have rear ones from factory like the Robin did. But it has front double wishbones, which I believe are from a Triumph Herald, but the steering rack is unique, which is why the turning circle is superb on these. Haven't demonstrated that yet, maybe I'll add that in later on. About 7 meters is the turning circle. Of the work we've done to it, as soon as we got it, we stripped the whole interior, binned the seats which were in it. They were not original seats, they were some sort of Volvo seats which were heated, which wasn't really a good combination with the amount of moisture that was in the car. I'm sure that would have been a pretty big fire hazard. So we binned those seats, all the carpets, etc., the door cards, as you can see. The car eventually had a slight ignition problem, which was purely just the condenser, but as it turns out the actual ignition coil which was fitted to this car was a point killer, so we had to replace the coil, fit new points anyway. We thought it was a carburetor problem because of how much, well, crap there was in the carburetor itself. There was so much like residue of old petrol and rust within the fuel itself. We replaced the fuel filters, rebuilt the car. Rebuild kits aren't really cheap for the SU car as they can be for Weber cars, for instance. And the car does run a lot nicer, and at least that's no longer a potential hazard of the carburetor refusing to operate. But we did essentially fix the carburetor for no reason, because although me and my brother are actually really good at fixing stuff, I would say, like we aren't experts obviously, we don't have decades of Reliant experience, but in terms of issue diagnosis, we only ever owned 2 Reliants in our life for about 4 years maybe now, since 2021. The story about the Rialto will be for a separate video. The engine in this car, as far as I know, is not the original engine, but I think it's gone over the clock, as it's got 8,000 miles on it, which probably isn't accurate. It feels more like it's got 108,000 considering how much bodgery was done throughout this car's life. Simple economical car from the mid-70s, this being an early model. 50 years old this year. Plenty of benefits of a Kitten over a Robin, but it just doesn't have the charm of a freewheeler. And the nice thing about the freewheelers is that they can corner a lot faster than people think, and it makes it a lot more entertaining to actually drive, because it just feels odd from third person seeing a Robin go around a roundabout at regular speed without even leaning in the slightest. They are stiffer than the Kitten is, to be completely honest with you. Mainly because it's a freewheeler, needs a stiff anti-roll bar. And Robins are actually meant to be really stiff at the back from the factory. The reason why a lot of them are soft is because after 1982 they had single leaf springs, which collapsed really easily, or I say very easily. Most Reliant Robins are almost 30 years old by now, so it's not really, shouldn't be too surprising that the leaf springs simply just give in. But to any people who haven't fully restored a Reliant before, or perhaps never owned one, they are supposed to have basically zero body roll. It's not normal for a Reliant to have body roll. It means that there's something wrong with it. And when they do have more body roll, it also makes them less stable with one person in the car. Shouldn't be the case really, because if you look at a Robin's chassis carefully, although people know Reliant for simple engineering and motoring, there's really a lot of development that went into the chassis of the car, and the actual engine and transmission in a Robin, or a Rialto even, is offset to the left by a very noticeable amount. In fact, the whole body shell is offset to the left in order to counter the driver weight. So is the spare tyre, so is the battery. If you look at a left-hand drive Reliant, the body is offset towards the other side, which is why they have more legroom on the left, which if you have a Robin or a Rialto or seen one, they usually have no room on the left side at all. The Mark I Robin, for instance, wasn't really Reliant's design, mostly at least. Of course, the engine and transmission was Reliant. It was inspired by the standard 8 and the Triumph engines, but it was Britain's first all-alloy engine. And the thing about the design of it is that Tom Carron styles the Robin from Ogle Design, a very respected designer. Unfortunately, he passed away not too long ago, age 96. The chassis itself was designed by a guy called John Crosswaite, who I don't know the whole story of, but I read an article about it a while ago, and let's just say that John Crosswaite was more than capable of designing a chassis for a Formula 1 car, for instance, of the time. Of course, they still had to stick for simple solutions. The Robin was supposed to have three racks, so like the Buntbuck did. In fact, the whole chassis was supposed to go from the Buntbuck into the Robin, so it had a very short back end. They decided to extend the chassis in order to make the car much more practical, but because these cars had to weigh less than 450 kilos, they had to go with a lighter suspension setup to compensate. So they switched to leaf springs, which of course also has the added benefit of reduced cost. Don't know if you can hear this, but yeah, I think the exhaust is banging slightly. It is a new exhaust, so I should do something about that. We're going to go into the low emission zone, which we can go into because it's a 50-year-old car. And I'll stop talking now so you can enjoy Edinburgh. Oh my god. The door of this van just opened on this taxi here. I'm pretty sure they just got hit by it. I don't know if you can see it from where you are. Comment about the comfort of these scimitar seats, but I don't know if you can tell, probably not from your angle, but even when I'm resting my feet, my legs are way up in the air, like my thighs are not resting on anything, and my ass is very far forward. It's not the most comfortable, and the standard seats are typically angled, so you sort of sink into them. A bit like the Robin seats, really. I think a Robin seat at this point would actually be more comfortable than a scimitar seat. I mean, at least it has a headrest, so if I get rear-ended, I'll be more comfortable. seats for this car.